Hey all, Board Game Rants here. We'll find everything solo, tabletop gaming, and more. Apex Theropod deck building game. Here's a quick tutorial and setup video, give you an idea if this is a game that you might care to play. All from a solo standpoint. Here we go. Alright, Apex Theropod deck building game. If you're lucky enough to own one of these, great. If you aren't, hopefully you know someone cool enough to let you borrow it, like me. And this is what it's all about. The hunting grounds, this is the main board, have most of the game components are going to operate on that. And then down here you'll have your own particular board for yourself, where all your stuff's going to go. And this is a deck building game, so it's just going to be just heaps of cards, decks of cards everywhere. So up here, let's start with, you're going to have an environment deck. This is going to be like a timer, sort of like a event deck, if you will. And then you're going to have a hunt deck. This is what you are going to be attacking. It's going to have the boss in it somewhere and its minions and a bunch of other creatures. And those are going to kind of splay out across the game trail. And then you're going to have an evolve deck. This is what you can use. You can buy these cards once they become available in the evolve pool to enhance your deck. Over here, an alert deck. This is just going to be a stack of all the same cards. They're all alert cards, and you'll have to draw one of those. Typically, you'll have to when you try to set up an ambush. Gives the monsters out there a chance to maybe you were lying in ambush and then snap. Little twig breaks and it freaks everybody out that you were about to ambush. So there's just gonna be a pile of cards there. They're all the same. Affliction deck. These are not all the same. There's a few varieties of afflictions, but ultimately they are wounds that you'll take. You'll add to your hand, and it just clutters up your deck in a bad way. Up here, defensive stance and disaster area cards. This is just, there's going to be a few cards up here that you may need to add to the game trail depending on certain things. And up here, elimination pile. Just up here, you just toss cards that just get eliminated. And there'll be a big heap up there by the time you're done. Then down to the good stuff, the nesting ground. So this is our area. This is going to manage our deck and our play. You'll have a draw pile. You're going to have an Apex deck. And after you play your cards, you're going to have a discard pile. And you're going to have a den here that's going to have face down cards. After you use them from your hoard, they're going to go into your den. Anything in your Apex deck, you have a chance to hatch and then possibly buy. And then here's your ambush point that you can set up cards. So ultimately you're going to have a deck of cards here it's going to start very much like a deck builder with a sort of a set of same cards, and then it's going to have a little bit of attack, which they call hunt in this game, and it's going to have a little bit of buy powers, which they call evolve points in this game. And you're going to play those cards and then end up discarding them, but while you're playing them, it's going to allow you to hunt out in the game trail and then eventually buy cards in the evolve pool and enhance your deck. Now, so anything you buy in the evolve pool is going to go right in your discard, sort of like a deck builder normally does, which will eventually get shuffled up and put over in your draw pile. However, things that you hunt on the game trail with your attack points, those are the cards that are going to end up going into your hoard. And they'll be face up in your hoard, and you'll see that they have actually whatever it took to attack them on one part of the card, but once you successfully hunt them, they're going to go here, and then they're going to have points that you can use to buy cards, basically. And then when you do that, you'll flip that card over, it'll become part of your den, which will score you victory points at the end of the game. So of course, the bigger, badder creatures that you attack, the more points they're going to be worth at the end of the game, should you win and want to score. Over here, this is a very cool little place where you're going to have a stack of cards here representing your Apex deck. So you're going to start with your generic draw pile, your generic deck. But over here is going to be very unique to whatever type of dinosaur you're playing. You're going to be able to take these cards, and if you play the right ones up here, that's going to allow you to hatch a card. And once it's hatched, you have a short period of time during that turn where you'll be able to, if you can afford it, buy that card, evolve, use your evolve points, and then add it to your discard. Just like you'd buy something from the evolve pool. If you have managed to hatch things from your Apex deck, then you'll be able to potentially buy those and add them, and that will super charge your deck there. You'll get much stronger abilities that way. So that's, and then over here you got an ambush point. This is kind of a cool way this game represents. Sometimes you'll get, especially early on in the game, you'll get cards that, you know, attack points but not enough maybe to attack anything out in the game trail. And so what you can do actually is set up an ambush. You can take those cards and set them off to the side and use them later in a future turn. And so you can kind of stash up attack points here, and then in a future turn you can not only use what you've drawn for that turn, but if you still have an ambush here, you can put the Cirrus Herd on one of these guys out in the game trail. But it comes at a bit of a risk, because oftentimes when you set up an ambush, you're going to have to draw a card from the alert deck and put it in your discard pile at the same time. So if that alert card gets shuffled up and put in your draw pile and you draw it before you've used your ambush, then bad things happen. So that's kind of a cool, you got to balance out the pluses and minuses there. So that is it in a nutshell. Let's go ahead and get this set up and I'll show you a little bit more about it. But real quick, why don't we just go over, this is what I'm going to make the decks out of. This comes with the base game. Here's all your cards you have to work with. Comes with this huge miniature, which denotes first player token, but that's, you know, you can just set that off to the side and it can just look pretty over there watching you play solo. So you get to pick a dinosaur that you're going to play, and there's 7 different ones, and there's difficulty levels as far as how hard they are to manage and build. It's kind of cool. We got these handy dandy, easy, moderate, hard. So you probably, you know, when you're learning the game, you'll pick one of these guys to play. That's going to make up the bulk of your Apex deck and the start of your starting deck. You're going to actually all have some hatchlings in them, which just represent very basic attack or hunt power. And then you're going to have carcass cards and an egg card in your starting deck. Carcass cards are your first evolve points that you use to buy cards. And then your egg card is going to let you draw a card and then hatch a card. And that's going to be your first way that you can, at least yourself, flip cards from your Apex deck available in your hatchery to buy. And then up here, this is what's going to create your hunt deck. That's going to go over there. And the hunt deck is going to be made of a random set of cards. So you're going to take, it says here, 5 per player. So out of the big game cards, I'm going to take 5. Out of the prey cards, I'm going to take 5 random ones. And then 2 menace cards, 2 titan cards, just 1 predator card. And then the whole point of the game is to defeat the boss. So the boss, you're going to get 1 boss. You can either, I think you can either pick it or randomly pick whatever you want. And then the boss is going to come with a set of minion cards. That's going to create your hunt deck. And then lastly up here, you've got environment cards that'll go over and create your environment deck. That's sort of like your timer. The last card is an extinction event. And if you don't kill the boss by that time, you lose. And then you've got up here your evolve cards. This is just a whole stack of cards. It's basically the same. That's going to make up your evolve deck. That's going to be allow you to strengthen your deck. And then defense stance, and there's just a few cards that are going to go here, along with alert deck. Those are all the same cards. They're going to go here if you try to set up an ambush. And then lastly, the affliction deck, which there's a certain combination of affliction cards that you use to create your affliction deck when you're playing solo. But that is what I'm going to use to create the board. And here we go. So here are the cards that represent my starting deck. I've got 5 hatchlings and 1 juvenile. Represents my first ability to hunt. Very basic, 1s and 2s there. And here are my prey, my carcass cards. There's 4 prey and 1 titan carcass. This represents my ability initially to buy with 3 evolve points or 1 in those. And then lastly, an egg card, which allows me to hatch a card and draw a card. Again, hatching a card, depending on what dinosaur you're playing, here is my Apex deck. Hatching a card allows me to flip this over, and then it's available to purchase, perhaps, with evolve points that turn before it gets recycled back under the deck. And also worth noting here, when you play solo, you always remove these cards which have this yellow title on them: juvenile, adult, veteran. Those are alpha cards. They are not used in solo, so those are removed from the Apex deck. And here's what's going to make up my hunt deck. Up here, I've got, again, 5 big game cards, 5 prey cards, 2 menace, 2 titans, and 1 predator card. Those are all random out of the selections that I have. And then a random boss. Technically, you're supposed to pick randomly. So pick a random boss, and this one in particular comes with 2 different minions. Other bosses have more or the same or whatever. And these are all going to get mixed up and make up the hunt deck. And here we have the Evolve deck. So this is just a bunch of cards. There's 5 different types, and this is all going to get shuffled and make up the Evolve deck. It's the same each game. Here's what's going to make up the event deck. At the bottom of the event deck is always going to be the same. There's going to be an extinction event on the bottom, an asteroid impact that's going to go on top of that. And then here, there are some random events. You're going to pick 7 of these, shuffle these up, and you're going to put 7 of those. It's going to go on top of that deck. And then lastly, on the very, very top, are going to be 1, 2, or 3 of these cards. These are all the same, called emergence cards. This sets, if you just want a smaller event deck and a tougher, the hard level, if you will, you only put 1 of these on top of the deck. If you want the normal level, you'll put 2. And if you want the easy level, you'll put 3. And the last kind of deck you're going to have to build, but really only one time if you're playing solo, is the Affliction deck, which consists of 3 different types of afflictions. There's these basic flesh wounds that just clutter up your deck. Then you've got severe traumas and virus cards, which are a little bit more dangerous. You really don't want those. But as you can see, this makes up the bulk of your Affliction deck, these very basic flesh wounds. We'll mix these all together along with a little alert deck. I find I only need 1 or 2 of these when I'm playing solo. And then you've got your disaster area and defense stance cards. And that's going to do it. And there it is. All the decks are in place. I have drawn my starting hand here. And then what you do is you go up and you draw your first environment card. And again, there's going to be 1 to 3 of these emergence cards to start with. And basically they allow you a little bit more of a peaceful event here that allows you to build up, get a couple rounds in to build up before super bad stuff starts happening. In this case, it says that I get to hatch a card. When you hatch a card, that's how you're going to get cards here from your Apex available to purchase. And then it says to draw a card. So now I've got 1 extra card. You usually draw a hand of 6, but now I've got 7 cards here to play with out of my initial starting deck of 12 cards. And then you start populating this game trail. And you work your way right to left. So we'll put all these out. Now normally you kind of want to pay attention to what the text is on the bottom, but you still do, but the main thing you'd be watching as you reveal and populate the game trail is for ambush effects, like this one. It says, eliminate the closest prey card in the game trail. So I would have to take this prey, eliminate it, slide this over, and then keep drawing cards. It just really starts thinning out the hunt deck, so you're more apt to run into the boss over and over again, and some of the bigger, harder cards. But according to the emergence card, it says that we get to ignore ambush effects. So that's why I just kind of threw these out there. This has a warning on it. It says that hatchlings can't be used to attack it up there on the top right. That's the hunt value. That's what you need to match in order to take out this dinosaur. And if you do, then you're going to have its evolve points available to you to purchase new cards. And that goes for all these. So I need a hunt point of 3 in order to take this guy out, and then I'd be able to use these evolve points. But if I do decide to hunt him successfully, then I have to resolve this effect, which is ultimately the repercussions of hunting such a beast is potentially taking a wound card or an affliction. So that's the hunt effect. Here's another, the ambush effect. Here's another hunt. So you'll find the harder, the predators that take that are more dangerous are going to potentially do some damage to you while you hunt them. And then here, this is a warning. So these warning things, you got to pay attention to those because they change up some of the effects of the game. Here's an alert. So an alert, again, is when you draw an alert card in your hand and you had an ambush set up. Well, then bad stuff happens. And this has a hunt effect on it as well. So the game trail gets set up. Then your evolve pool gets put out. So there's all the cards. These are cards you can buy that'll help enhance your deck. And then you finally get to play. And when you play, one of the first things you're going to do is, if you've drawn any of these alert cards, because you had one in your deck, you have to resolve it first. And if you had any cards in your ambush point, bad news bears. But if you don't, then nothing really happens. So first you gotta resolve the alert. Then, if you want, your hand, you can now set up an ambush point. If no alert occurred, you can set up an ambush and take up to 3 cards that have hunt values on them and set up an ambush. And if you do that, then you have to take an alert card and put it in there, and that's the opportunity for the game to find you out. That if you draw that and you happen to have an ambush ready, well, the ambush has been foiled, and the creatures up here, their alert effects take kick in gear, and that usually is bad for you. So this alert card comes out in your discard pile if you choose to set up an ambush. If you don't, and most of the time you won't really, then you just play your hand. And what you'll typically do there is use any evolve cards, which in this case would be this is denoted up there as an evolve card. This egg allows me to hatch a card and draw a card. So that's again how I would, so I'd put my played cards there. That's how I'd get more cards from my Apex deck available to purchase. And then more cards, draw another card to be able to do something with. And so you can see I drew my, those are my buy points, my evolve. But before you can buy any cards, you're going to want to hunt if you can. And so I've got 4 hunt points. I'd look up here and see what I can take out. This one only takes 2, but again, hatchlings, which is all I've got right now, can't be used to hunt this thing. So you develop your hunt points and try to take out creatures on the game trail, and if you do, then that card goes in your hoard. And then it stays here until you decide to use its evolve points to potentially purchase a card in your hatchery or up here in the evolve pool. And when you do that, you'll flip this over and it becomes part of your den, which basically just scores you points at the end of the game if you want to score points. This would only give me 1 point at the end of the game. And after you've done all your hunting that you can do, and you'll scooch everything over, then you'll start using your evolve points. And that would be, I've got 3, 4, 5 in this case. And let's say I'd taken that out with these 3 hatchlings that generated that hunt. But let's not forget, if I did that, I'd have to reveal the top card of the affliction deck. And if it is a flesh wound, which this is, then add it to your discard pile. Otherwise, recycle it. So if it wasn't a flesh wound, if it was a worse wound, if you will, then it wouldn't take into effect. I'd recycle it back under this deck, and I'd take no wound. Successful hunt. But in this case, this guy put a little whooping on me, and I got a little wound for it. Now, over here, this little hatchling is only worth 1 point. Doesn't do me any good. Nobody out here can be hunted with 1 point. Then I get to look at my evolve. I get 3, 4, 5... 6, 7, 8 that I can use. These I have to use them or lose them this turn. This I can save for later. And let's say, oh yeah, I would like this lurker. We managed to hatch this lurker. Oh, I think there should be another one too because I played my egg card, right? So there's, ooh, a brute that has a potential to buy. Wow, tremendous hunt value. This has good hunt value if I can get it into my ambush point. And but this costs 9. I've got 3, 6, 7, 8. Oh, I don't have enough. So let's say I'd pick up this lurker for 4. So we'll put that in my discard pile. We'll use this 3 points and this 1 point. So I bought that. Now I've got what, 3, 4 points left. And let's just get a metabolic growth for 3. So that would go there. I used my Titan carcass for that. And then this is wasted, the 1. And then we are done. What happens there is these all go in your discard pile. This stays in your den. This gets recycled. Anything in your hatchery gets recycled back to the bottom of the Apex deck. Then you go up here, everything should be slid over to the right as you purchase stuff, and then you start recycling these cards. So this goes underneath here. This card would go underneath here. And we slide everything over. And now we resolve the next environment card. and so on and so forth. So you're going to have anywhere from 10 to 12 rounds, because again, you're going to have 1 to 3 of these cards, depending on the level you're playing, and then 7 random environment cards. And lastly, you're going to have the 2 cards, which the first one I think is an asteroid, which hits, and the last one is extinction. And if you have not beaten the boss by then, you lose the game. And that is it. I think I'll attach to the top there, or in the notes below, some links to some playthroughs that I watched to learn the game. Heck, might even have one of my own up there. I'd certainly attach it if I do. But until next time, that is Apex Theropod deck building game and how to set it up and play it in a nutshell. I'm Board Game Rants. Thanks for watching. I'm out.